Good evening, I'm Rick Van Hoos.
And I'm Jennifer Bayless. In about an hour and a half, President Trump will be in Louisville for a rally at Freedom Hall. And as you would expect, the president will be greeted with those for and against him.
After all, he easily carried Kentucky in the election, but President Trump seems to have a polarizing effect, and protesters are out in force.
WLKY's Eric King begins our team coverage tonight, live from Kentucky Expo Center, where people began lining up there, Eric, very early this morning for a chance to hear the president speak.
Yeah, 5 hours. I think the people who were in the front of the line, who are already well inside now, were in line more than 5 hours ago. You mentioned President Trump won Kentucky. He didn't just win it, he won it convincingly. 118 counties of Kentucky's 120 counties went to now President Donald Trump. He's scheduled to speak here at around 7:30, so things are going to get quite interesting. The location of Freedom Hall is actually a really smart location logistically because the airport's essentially just right across the street. That means when the president lands, he doesn't have to travel too far, and his motorcade doesn't have to extend into post-rush hour traffic throughout the city of Louisville. Here's a live look now from the WLKY Chopper HD, and I wanted to show you this just because the line here has been so long. I mean, it stretched all the way to the outskirts of Freedom Hall. Also at the outskirts of Freedom Hall, that's where you'll find a number of the people who have been protesting. That's where that's the space that's been allotted for them. We'll talk more about those protesters with Lauren Adams in a few minutes. Lauren, who you see there now live. We're also going to chat with Christina Mora, who's live at Louisville International Airport as we await the arrival of Air Force One. But first, I want to go inside to Mark Vanderhoff. Mark's been in there for a couple of hours now as we're preparing for this rally. And I do say rally because this is going to be different than most presidential visits. This is a full-out campaign rally. Mark, over to you.
Yeah, Eric, I want to point out something before we begin. Governor Matt Bevin just arrived a few minutes ago, and he came in. There was a huge roar. People very happy to see him, cheering him. Now he's signing some of these President Donald Trump signs. These signs have been given out here inside. No outside signs were available. You can see the crowd here. It's pretty packed. Everybody's got on their Trump apparel. There was some chanting earlier. One side was chanting Donald, the other side was chanting Trump. There's just a very upbeat atmosphere here. People very excited. Now, I'd like to draw your attention to two signs that make up the backdrop for President Trump. One says promises made, the other says promises kept. And that's really going to be the heart of this rally. President Trump is going to be telling the folks here that he is doing what they elected him to do. And I suspect he'll get a lot of cheers for that. I also suspect there will be some boos as well, because earlier today, the FBI director, James Comey, told lawmakers that they are investigating some possible links between Trump campaign officials and Russian officials during the election. He also said that he had no evidence that former President Barack Obama ordered any wiretapping of then candidate Trump. As you can imagine, Eric, I would be willing to bet that Trump is going to have some very colorful things to say about that. Back to you.
I think that's a bet that most people in America and certainly here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky would take gladly. Mark, thanks so very much. Here's another live look from the WLKY Chopper HD showing the extent of that line. And, you know, a number of people have been curious about what the turnout here was going to be. But again, as we mentioned, when the president carries 118 of 120 counties, you have to expect that the massive crowd is going to turn out. We mentioned Air Force One is en route right now. It took off from Joint Reserve Andrews just about a half hour ago. We saw Air Force One take off en route to Louisville International. That's where Christina Mora is live for us right now. And Christina, as you well know, once Air Force One calls in range to make its final descent into Louisville International Airport, the president's going to get a VIP treatment. Air traffic is going to stop completely.
Exactly, Eric. And so far, we still have been seeing air traffic. Of course, all of that will stop. There are a few people gathered here at the cell phone lot of the airport to see if they can take a picture of Air Force One when it arrives. And as you mentioned, today's event is essentially a rally. It appears and it looks like a campaign rally. You'll see that in the images. And today, we certainly met a lot of people who are making money off of Trump merchandise.
From Nashville, but I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. I came down here to revamp my life because there's no jobs in Michigan anymore.
Sam Cusimano was in Nashville last week preparing hot dogs for President Trump's supporters and critics.
Yes, we did. We watched all the protesters. I was hanging out with them, and let's just say it was wild.
Now he's cooking and cashing in Louisville. And he's not alone.
He posted, and we'll go there. He has his website. He'll post where he's going to be.
Trump-Pence merchandise filled the parking lot across from the Expo Center Monday, reminiscent of the 2016 presidential election.
We're selling support Trump merchandise, because everybody seems to be getting in his way, and he's just stepping right over him. He's going to get things done.
Many of these sellers say they go where the president goes in order to keep profiting. And once President Trump lands here, he'll make his way over to the Expo Center where thousands of people are waiting for him and waiting to hear him speak. I spoke with the first person in line this morning. She tells me she got there at 5:30 a.m. and she drove last night from Memphis, Tennessee. That's the latest from just outside the airport. Christina Mora, WLKY News.
All right, Christina, thank you. 6:50, the operating time right now for Air Force One to arrive at Louisville International Airport. Christina, thank you. We'll certainly stay in touch with you and look for your tweets as we get closer to the arrival of Air Force One. As promised now, over to you, Lauren Adams. You've been hanging out with people who are not so happy with the arrival of the president today, and I'm sure it's been a colorful afternoon for you.
Absolutely. That is a good way to describe it, Eric. There are chants, there are cheers, there are signs. Go ahead, take a look here behind me. I can tell you this crowd is very enthusiastic is the good word, and their passion seems to only grow by the minute as the president's arrival gets even closer. And Eric, having been on the campaign trail with President Trump, I've got to tell you, this rally, these protesters, what we're seeing here tonight is very, very similar, very reminiscent of what we saw several months ago when the then Republican candidate made his first stop in Louisville. But now that he is in office, Eric, a lot of these protesters tell me it is even more important that their message is heard. And while many are concerned about the president's immigration policy and other hot-button issues, the majority of folks we're seeing out here tonight, and at my count it's about 1,000 right now, they are concerned over his proposed health care plans, what many have dubbed Trump Care. One woman I spoke with who was forced to take early retirement last year actually broke down in tears talking with me about her concerns over her future health care.
I worked all my life, and I had to go on food stamps, and I pay for insurance. And it's not just for me, it's for everyone, for the elderly, the black people, it's for everyone. If you're American, then we deserve a decent health plan.
And Eric, take a look right over these crowds. There's actually a stage set up, and that's where we've heard from several folks. Indivisible Kentucky organized this rally. They've had representatives talking. There you go. A lot of the traffic actually supporting these protesters, which is just getting their energy even more amped up. But back to what we were talking about, Indivisible Kentucky, they went ahead and organized this rally. We've heard from them. We've heard from Planned Parenthood. We've also heard from Black Lives Matter. But I'm told in the next 10 minutes, we will hear from some local House Democrats. Reporting live for you tonight outside the Expo Center, I'm Lauren Adams, WLKY News.
All right, Lauren, thank you. Certainly a very powerful platform to be able to stand in front of a venue where the President of the United States is going to speak and offer your protest. Also a privilege of the U.S. Constitution to be able to do so. We oftentimes forget how important that is and how many countries don't have that. I'll tell you something else. Opposition to the president's message isn't coming just from protesters. Members of the Democratic side of the Metro Council are voicing their concerns. They just wrapped up a press conference not too long ago where they all talked about what they would say to President Trump given the chance. Here's a listen to what some of them had to say.
But the current proposal takes us backward. It will make our citizens less healthy and shift costs to local governments and safety net hospitals, increasing the tax burden on residents and putting healthcare providers in jeopardy.
Instead of giving alternative facts, tweets, and temper tantrums, we could have an honest discussion on strengthening Obamacare instead of decreasing options.
All right, so it is going to be a busy evening here. Here are the times that we're expecting right now, Jennifer and Rick. 6:50, the arrival of Air Force One at Louisville International Airport. Surrounding that time, air traffic here in Louisville is going to stop. So if you're expecting someone on a flight, just be patient because the president's coming. 7:30, the president is scheduled to start speaking here at Freedom Hall. It looks like the back of the line is just now about to make its way into Freedom Hall. So things are about to get started here as we await the president of the United States. Back over to you.
All right.